Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Monday's Look North. On the programme tonight, calls for more organ donors as waiting lists in Yorkshire reach an all-time high.
Knowing the impact that organ donation can be to somebody, it's completely changed our perspective. One death can save up to 9 lives.
We speak to 2 families from North Yorkshire who are urging more people to come forward. Also tonight, security staff want a life-saving drug that can reverse the effects of a heroin overdose to be carried as standard. A bright pink tractor has been touring around North Yorkshire to raise money for breast cancer awareness. And the man left with brain damage after a car crash, now living his dream of playing football again.
Well, Saturday's rainfall is already making its way down the river network. This was the River Ouse this morning in York, but despite that, at least it is going to be dry and sunny. Join me for that detailed forecast.
Hi there, I hope you had a lovely weekend. Welcome to Monday's programme. We start tonight with NHS figures that show the number of people on a waiting list for an organ transplant in Yorkshire has reached an all-time high. According to the report, over 600 people in Yorkshire are currently on the waiting list. And in the last decade, 348 people have lost their lives waiting for one. Tonight, we're going to be hearing from 2 families who are urging more people to become organ donors. First, the grandmother of 5-year-old Talia Bowright from Scarborough. She died while waiting for a new heart and lung. And we'll also hear from the parents of 1-year-old Penelope from Ravenscar. She has dilated cardiomyopathy and has been in hospital for 9 months waiting for a new heart. Carla Fowler has more.
Christine Johnson looks at pictures of her granddaughter Talia every day. As her legal guardian, she brought Talia up. When she was 4, Talia was diagnosed with restrictive cardiomyopathy. The disease causes the heart to stiffen, preventing it from filling up properly with blood. It also put pressure on Talia's lungs. And in June 2020, she was listed for an urgent heart and lung transplant, the only treatment option available.
We never, ever believed in another outcome. Talia was going to live. She was going to get the organs that she needed, and that was it. There was never going to be any other end to the story, but devastatingly, the miracle doesn't come for everybody.
Talia spent months in hospital, but the family never gave up hope, believing every day an organ would be donated. But in August 2020, at just 5 years old, Talia died before a donor was found.
She would be 11 this year. She had so much to see and do, so much of her life in front of her. It can happen to anyone at any time. And it's the whole, if you would accept an organ for your loved one, in my opinion, that answers your decision. And it's just to let people know. I would never want anybody to live at the other side of it that we live in now.
Now the Talia Bow Foundation supports children and families in similar circumstances, like Penelope Greathead from Ravenscar, who was diagnosed with dilated cardiomyopathy when just a few weeks old. After she suffered heart failure, her parents began a desperate campaign to raise funds for a mechanical device known as a Berlin heart. The operation went ahead in December, but children with Berlin hearts have to remain in hospital until they receive a donor heart.
It's been hard to adjust from, we literally just had a normal life one day and then it just stopped and everything got turned upside down.
Never imagined being in a position where we'd rely on, another child to die, that we need to use an organ for our child. And if the question was asked to us before, I probably would have been uncertain. But knowing the impact that organ donation can be to somebody, it's completely changed our perspective.
As the UK waiting list hits record levels, someone will die today waiting for a transplant. Carla Fowler, BBC Look North, Scarborough.
Gosh, very moving stories, both of them there. And we're going to talk more about this with Sarah Whittingham. She's the lead nurse for the Yorkshire organ donation team. Earlier I asked her why the waiting list for organ donation is currently so long.
I think there are currently around about 8,000 people on the UK transplant waiting list at the moment. And I think that's to do with the fact, as well as advances in medical technology, which means that patients can survive longer whilst on the transplant waiting list. We've also seen a reduction in the amount of people who have opted in for organ donation via the organ donor register, and families that also support that decision as well.
Clarity is also really important, isn't it? Because 5 years ago, the legislation changed so that you had to physically opt out of the donation list. So many may think that it's already a decision made for them.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But the opt-out legislation wasn't brought in to ever take away from the decision-making of an individual. So although we can approach families whose loved one hasn't made a decision, and we can assume that their loved one would have had no objection, what we find in our experience is it's a lot clearer for families if we speak to them at the worst time of their lives and they know what their loved one's donation decision was.
For anyone who is watching and they are considering it, just tell us, how many lives can one body potentially save?
Up to 9 lives potentially. All depends on how old the person is. And I wouldn't ever say to assume that they think that people are too old, because we accept organ donors and talk to families of our patients anywhere up to the age of 85. And we care for babies, children, adults as well.
So the message is, have that conversation with your loved ones and make your wishes clear.
Absolutely, yes.
Sarah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Such an important conversation to have, isn't it, with your loved ones and your friends and family. Maybe this evening is a good time to start. You are watching Monday's Look North, still to come on tonight's programme. We catch up with a rising rugby star from West Yorkshire who wants to inspire more girls to get into the game. But before that, we're going to have a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom now. A British Army chef from Chesterfield has been charged with terror offences. 27-year-old Mark Broadhurst from Grassmoor was arrested last year after police searched his room at Catterick Garrison, his home in Grassmoor, Chesterfield and a property in Bolsover. He was charged with possessing a firearm without holding a firearms certificate and possession of explosives and a homemade cannon. At Westminster Magistrates Court today, he was given conditional bail and will appear at the Old Bailey in London next week. The King has appointed a new Lord Lieutenant of West Yorkshire. Professor Adiba Malik, CBE, has taken up the post, or will take up the post at the end of the year. She'll become the first woman of Asian heritage appointed as Lord Lieutenant in the UK. And we'll be speaking to her on the programme tomorrow night. Looking forward to it. A doorman has said he wants an easy-to-use life-saving drug to be carried as standard for security staff after he helped a man dying from an overdose. When Charlie Smith found a man in a doorway in Sheffield, he knew exactly what to do to save his life, injecting him with naloxone. Now, it can reverse the effects of deadly opioid overdoses, buying time before an ambulance arrives. Ollie Constable has been to meet him.
Myself and my colleague, whilst we were stood working at the common room, noticed a gentleman slumping over on a chair.
Charlie Smith is a lifesaver. Working the doors on Sheffield's Division Street, he saw a man collapsed in a doorway.
He wasn't responding to us with voice, pain or touch. We relayed that on to the ambulance crew, saw that his eyes were very dilated. They advised us to use our naloxone kit. We used it. 2 minutes later, the male came back round and started talking to us.
Armed with some training and a syringe, he injected the man with the life-saving drug.
I was terrified. I had a call to make. I either had to start doing CPR because he wasn't breathing, or I gave this a chance. Thankfully, I did the right thing, gave this a chance, and he came back round.
He's one of only a few door staff who've been taught how to use naloxone, which can reverse the effects from opioids like heroin or morphine. Lindsay is from a group in Sheffield which has been training them.
It comes in 2 forms, an injectable version and a nasal version. The nasal is so much simpler to use because you don't have to inject anyone. And then if you were to administer naloxone, you would put this part up their nose and then you would just press this little plunger here until you hear a click, and then that's it, that's the dose administered.
It's something which has already been successfully used by South Yorkshire Police.
Literally 5 minutes after giving that, we get this. That's it.
Within minutes, this woman was conscious, moments after being found unresponsive after a suspected overdose. Naloxone is either injected or sprayed into the body, making its way to the brain. It then binds to opioid receptors, stopping opioids from the overdose affecting the body. This reverses the effects of the drug, which can include slowing the heart rate or breathing to a fatal level.
There is potent synthetic opioids being found in a whole range of party drugs. Obviously, Sheffield is a huge city with a massive student population, and with students come partying, you know, people may be experimenting with drugs, and you never know what's in the supply nowadays. So it could be that potentially someone who's never taken an opioid in their life has their life saved by naloxone.
Opioid-related deaths make up the biggest proportion of drug fatalities across the UK. There are around 40 every week in England. Some frontline police officers have been given kits, but Charlie wants even more people to know how to use the antidote, making it a standard for those licensed by the Security Industry Authority.
I'd love to see this become a standard with the SIA. We had it with first aid, it's now a standard where all doormen have to have first aid to get their licence. I'd love to see this become a standard with the SIA, making sure that all doormen are prepared and used and ready to use it.
So people like you can save more lives?
Exactly.
Incredible. Right, time for the sport now. Sal is here, looking lovely in green.
Thank you, Amy. So we start with some football, because in the Premier League, Leeds United became the first of the newly promoted sides to win away, coming from behind to beat Wolves 3-1.
Strikers feed off goals, it's normal, so it's good confidence boost. Nice to get my first one in and celebrate in front of the away fans, which is the most important thing for me, and just really enjoyed it all round, you know, happy to be back on the pitch and feeling at my best.
Now in the Championship, Sheffield United remain at the bottom of the table, losing to Charlton Athletic in their first game under returning manager Chris Wilder. But Sheffield Wednesday claimed their first league victory of the season with a 2-0 win over Portsmouth. Travelling Owls fans, continuing their protest against owner Dapon Chansiri, were much cheered by goals from captain Barry Bannon and then 19-year-old George Brown here, getting his first goal as a senior player. Bradford City's excellent start to life in League One continues. They move up to the top of the table, replacing Cardiff City after beating them 3-1, with goals including this from Josh Nerfville, leaving manager Graham Alexander as delighted as the fans.
A real good 3 points really, and the crowd again at the end, you know, all the way through. I'm buzzing for them. So it's a long journey down here. Brilliant, but you know, it's so exciting playing at different stadiums, these magnificent stadiums, the clubs that have been in the Premier League and stuff, and we're standing toe to toe with them, and I just love that about the club.
And in League Two, at a rain-soaked exercise stadium, Harrogate ended a run of 4 straight defeats after Jack Muldoon and Conor McElhenney scored to secure a convincing 2-0 win over Shrewsbury. To Rugby League now, and Wakefield ended the regular season with a win over Salford. They'll now play Leigh on Friday in the elimination playoffs, whilst Leeds will face St Helens on Saturday. Meanwhile, in the women's eliminator semi-finals, Leeds Rhinos were beaten by 38 points to 0 by Wigan, and York Valkyrie were knocked out too. They were narrowly beaten by St Helens in a thrilling semi-final by 12 points to 8. York tried to find their way through in the final minutes of the game, but Saints saw it out to seal the win and end York's 2-year reign as Super League champions. And the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo ended without a gold for Great Britain. Yorkshire's Max Bergin ran the 800 metres final with a personal best time, but didn't make the podium. Bergin had set out to try and break the long-standing British record held by Sebastian Coe. He started strongly but got boxed in at the crucial moment and couldn't hold on. He finished 6th, with the gold going to Kenya. That personal record, though, does get him within half a second of Coe. Now, a 22-year-old from Gummersall in West Yorkshire says his dream of playing football again has finally come true after his former club started a new disability team. Callum Irvine had to quit the game he loved after a car accident left him with brain damage when he was 7 years old. But now, 15 years later, he's back on the pitch playing for his childhood team, Gummersall and Cleckheaton. Nicola Rees reports.
Go Callum, go Callum!
At this football club, no one sits on the sidelines.
Come on!
Players with a range of disabilities train together at Gummersall and Cleckheaton FC.
Go on Alex, take your time. This is the best part of my week, definitely.
You didn't pass.
For 22-year-old Callum Irvine, being back on the pitch is a dream come true.
They told me he would never walk or talk again, and look at him. He's running with a bloody ball.
Handball, get off the pitch.
As a child, Callum was a star player at this club. But at 7 years old, just hours after he'd scored a hat-trick in a match, he was hit by a car and suffered life-changing injuries.
The first I heard was his dad ringing me saying Callum's been run over. It was really bad. The ambulance had to put him into an induced coma. They told me it was bad. He wouldn't survive 24 hours.
After 6 months in hospital, Callum pulled through, but he was left with permanent brain damage and had to quit the game he loved, until now.
Pass, good lad. Football is probably the only thing that he hasn't forgotten since his accident. It means the absolute world because he's come back to his old team.
You got to have the ball at your feet and kick it. I'm best at scoring.
The new pan-disability team is for anyone who can't access mainstream football. It's a first for the area, and coach Andrew Birkinshaw says it's long overdue.
We've been thinking about it for a while as a club, and it's just really good that we've been able to have the support from the club to be able to put this on, so it's amazing. They're actually players of the club, so they're not tokenistic. This is them being part of our club. They've got the kits. You know, we treat them exactly the same as every other team within the club as well.
If you live in Leeds, if you live Wakefield or even Huddersfield, there's quite a lot over there. But here, there's nothing. So for this to be on our doorstep, it's perfect.
Even
on this pitch, personalities shine and friendships grow. It's football for everyone.
They're absolutely amazing. The way that they play, the way that they help each other out, they really want to be they're a real team, they want to be here for each other, it's amazing.
You're number 5 and I'm number 8.
I can't even describe how proud I am of him. He has proved so many people wrong. You can never say that a young person with disabilities cannot do nothing, because look, he's living proof. They'll all prove you wrong.
And that, as far as I'm concerned, is what sport is all about. Amy.
Absolutely, goodness me, what a beautiful story that is, Sally, thank you. And lots more clubs like that need to open, don't they? Now, we are going to keep with sport, because if you've been watching, you'll know that England are through to the final of the Women's Rugby World Cup. And someone who's been following the tournament very closely indeed is a rising rugby star from Kirklees. 14-year-old Ava is passionate about rugby and wants to inspire others to stay in the game. Recently, her dreams came true when she got to meet the England women's team ahead of their first game last month, and she's been taking part in a CBBC documentary series called My Life, where the team have been following her journey as she gets ready to take part in the England rugby trials. I caught up with Ava a little earlier.
So my cousin actually got me into it. My cousin played and then I went and watched him and then just fell in love with it after that. But I think one of the main things that I love with rugby is definitely the team, and my team and the teamwork around the game is probably one of my favourite things, because don't get me wrong, you can score the tries by yourself, but if you've got no one to pick you up and congratulate you after the tries, it's just not the same.
There's a lot of tackling as well in this. Yeah. I see you go full
Extreme.
frontal.
Tackling is one of my favourite things. I love it, just being able to run someone and fall them to the floor and just easily, and it being allowed.
So in this documentary we see that you're helping to train some of the younger girls who may be feeling like they want to drop out. What do they tell you about the main reason why they don't want to carry on with rugby?
I think mainly they feel like they're not fit for it. So if they're more of like they're smaller, they might be like, oh no, I can't do this, I'm too small.
And so how do you help them with all that?
I think just doing fun games, and if there's someone who is like maybe by themselves or has come by themselves, making them like with a group of friends and everyone introducing each other and maybe throwing a ball about and making everyone say their names, so it just makes everyone like aware and familiar with each other.
So your coach put you forward for the England Pathway trials in the summer. What was that like?
Oh, absolutely incredible. The actual trials were so good. Everyone was so advanced with rugby, and it like was such a good atmosphere to be with, like around girls who all knew what they were doing and be able to put on like your best players with people, like the best people in obviously Yorkshire. And when I found out my coach put me forward, it was such a nice feeling. I felt so grateful because that when she got told about it, she thought of me.
And talking about good experiences, you went to watch the England women's team, didn't you, at the beginning of the World Cup. What was that like?
Oh, absolutely incredible, because as well I stood at the sidelines and watched them all train, and then when I was actually like the game was actually going on, seeing everyone around me watching and just having so much fun and singing all the chants and doing Mexican waves. Oh, it was such a nice area to be around.
And you got to meet some of the players, didn't you?
Yeah.
What did they tell you? Because they gave you a bit of advice.
So I met Lark Atkin-Davies, Mo Hunt and Ellie. They basically just said stick with it and don't give up, because I mainly talked to them about my England trials, and they said that if you don't get in the first time, there's so many other opportunities to come. So if I'm not going into the trials like wanting to do the best I can, then what's the point of me going at all, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so do you think they can make it? Can we win the World Cup?
Of course they can.
Bring it home. Ava, you are one to watch. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
And you can watch Ava's journey on BBC iPlayer right now. It's called My Life Rugby Girl. Now finally tonight, you don't see many of these around, do you? Pink tractors. Cancer, of course, is a diagnosis that nobody wants to hear, but one woman from North Yorkshire is determined to turn her breast cancer diagnosis into something positive. Jodie Martin, who's from Pickering, has had a vintage tractor sprayed this fabulous colour and taken to the road to spread awareness and hope in the wake of a diagnosis that many find just devastating. Kathy Killick has been to meet her.
10 months after being diagnosed with breast cancer, Jodie Martin is determined to crack on and leave it behind. But her pink tractor will be a positive way into the future, helping raise awareness of the disease and catching it early.
Yeah, I found a lump in my boob, so I just went to the doctors, and obviously because I was young, they didn't think it was anything, but best to get these things checked. And I went to the Magnolia Centre at York, who are incredible, and yeah, they biopsied it and diagnosed me with cancer.
Jodie had surgery and 6 rounds of chemo and is due to start radiotherapy on Wednesday. But before that, she did this. 73 tractors, 44 miles around Helmsley, and thousands raised for breast cancer research.
There was all sorts from all different ages. Mine's from 1957, but there was right up to the newer models, all different sizes. But I was just determined to make something that was really negative into something really positive. So I wanted to raise loads of awareness, help other people, support other people, and raise loads of money for more research.
Jodie's also set up a stall in the farmyard to keep the fundraising going, as will her tractor, bought 48 years ago by her stepdad and resprayed especially for the cause.
It brings the community together a bit, you know, especially with the tractor on, it brings the farming community together. Everybody had a good day out. You see people and talk about things, and that's what it's all about. It's about awareness at the moment, isn't it?
And what could be more eye-catching and, more importantly, uplifting than Jodie and her tractor? She's on the road to recovery from cancer, a hopeful story that should comfort and cheer others. Kathy Killick, BBC Look North, Eleban.
Love that, Jodie, well done. Paul's here now. Paul, oh my gosh, that snow, I was going to say. The rain on Saturday.
I didn't forecast that, but yeah.
The ooze was so high. What sort of impact has this had on reservoirs? Surely we are where we should be now in terms of levels.
Nowhere near. We'll see, I think, a big uptick tomorrow, but the rainfall, I mean, Pateley Bridge was the wettest place in the whole country on Saturday with 70 millimetres, which is nearly a month's worth in little under 30 hours. We've got some pictures because, as you might imagine, the land did respond. This is the the River Wharfe, beautiful part of the country. This is Linton Falls as the camera spins round there near Grassington like a raging torrent. I mean, it's a very flashy river. If we have a look at the next picture, this is down the river there in Wetherby. You can see it's almost burst its banks there. So, you know, it's feast or famine in this country, isn't it? We've had like 6 months of drought and then the heavens, you know, certainly open. But reservoir levels, and we've got a long way to go before the hosepipe ban is lifted because the reservoirs are so low.
Snow will be next.
Well, it sounds like it from your forecast. Right, let me show you a couple of pictures you've sent in which tells the story of how much rainfall we had at the weekend. That's the River Aire in Kildwick in between Keighley and Skipton. It's a natural floodplain. That's what it's supposed to do, spill into the floodplain. And not only big rivers, there was a big northerly wind and that encouraged some really big waves. That was Sands End on Saturday afternoon at high tide. If you've got any pictures you'd like to send in to me on X, on Instagram or the Weather Watcher website, please do. So a quiet spell of weather this week, of course. Autumn officially starts just about right now. We're in the equinox. Tomorrow will be dry with some sunshine. It was a temporary, very wet day on Saturday because high pressure right back over the top of the country. It's going to stay with us the whole of the week. Bit of uncertainty for the weekend. We might see a bit of rain for a time, but as we head into early October, it may well be that high pressure continues to dominate the weather scene. Now there's a satellite picture. What a beautiful day it's been. Now last night we got down to freezing point at Wensleydale, Bainbridge I think it was in Wensleydale, so there was a frost. Tonight there's a chance of another frost, especially across the Yorkshire Dales. Elsewhere, dry, clear spells, a bit of mist around dawn, temperatures generally down to 3 or 4, but as I say, some of these Yorkshire Dales could be close to freezing point. Tomorrow's high water times in Scarborough 5:43, Filey at 5:52. So a chilly start, a misty start, otherwise blue skies all the way. A fabulous morning tomorrow morning. Lots of sunshine in the afternoon. We will see a bit of patchy cloud, maybe developing inland. Just a risk of the odd isolated shower along the coast. But most of us will have another fabulous autumn day. Temperatures actually not far from the late September average, 15, maybe 16 in Leeds. That's 61 Fahrenheit. Wednesday through to Friday stays fine with some sunshine. A lot of uncertainty for the weekend. At the moment, we might see a bit of patchy rain on Saturday, fine on Sunday. But these details may change, Amy. That's the forecast.
That looks good to me. Thank you very much, Paul. That is it from us. I will be back with the late news at 10:30. If you're still awake, do join me. Bye-bye for now.